Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, this is a debate that we've had so many times before, and I really want to believe that everybody has goodwill as we talk about it, and everybody's entitled to their own beliefs. But I do so resent the notion that some of us really have no interest whatever in the lives of people. I always have to quote Congressman Barney Frank when he was here, who said that there were so many people in the Congress who believe that life begins at conception but ends at birth, because oftentimes they're the same people who won't pay for preschool, won't pay for health care, won't pay for child care, won't pay for education, won't pay to help families bring up those children in any possible way. This law is unneeded, Mr. Franks. We already have laws like this all over the country. Born alive, to do anything to interfere with its living would be considered homicide. We have laws against that, always have had. And I just regret that we always come up here with sad things to let everybody line up on both sides, forgetting that absolutely human beings must have sometimes to make the most awful decision of their life. And I'm assuming that what you're talking about are people in late-term abortions. And those have to have medical necessity decisions made. 2 doctors have to decide. If after Roe v. Wade, you know, it's only for the first trimester, and then this is medical necessity. I've talked to a lot of women who had to make that decision. They desperately wanted those babies, Mr. Frank. I remember one woman who talked about the fetus that had spasms and all kinds of pain. She thought it was trying to move. It was absolutely ongoing seizures. And baby could not live. A woman who told me that her baby was born, she was able to hold it for a few minutes, but it had no brain. It couldn't live. And to make, like, those are decisions that the Supreme Court of the United States said, we want to give that to medical people, and we want to give it to the people involved. The family should make that decision. If they want to consult their priest or their rabbi or their minister or anybody else, fine, but it's up to them. But continually, in legislatures and Congresses all over this country, everybody decides whether women have the right to choose, regardless of what the circumstances are. And you know, to me, when a 9-year-old girl gives birth in the United States, it's barbaric. They should not be doing that. I remember a doctor from one of the hospitals in Rochester telling me that he passed the maternity ward that morning, and a 9-year-old girl who had just given birth was sucking her thumb. Aren't we better people than that? Why do we demand that we are the only people who know what choice people can make about their lives? And it's always this issue. Do we all discuss around here whether a man should be allowed to have a vasectomy? No, we don't. We leave that to the man who wants one and the doctor who's going to do it and anybody that he wants to consult. What gives us the divine right here that we can suddenly make that decision over medical advice? And you remember, this has all been tried before. We've had it before. We tried to criminalize doctors. 5 years prison term. Isn't that what you're giving with this? A 5-year prison term.
Mr. Chairman, if they break the law, there are 2 different components to it. If it's done negligently and the provisions of the law are broken, then it is a 5-year prison sentence. If indeed they deliberately kill the child knowingly after the child is born, then it's the same as they're killing any other child. It would be a murder.
That's homicide, Mr. Frank.
Yes, ma'am.
Obviously that would be prosecuted, don't you think?
Well, I can only answer the gentlelady's question by this. You know, we've seen that really isn't true. The realization came now in the famous case, Floyd versus Anders.
Let me reclaim my time, because
okay.
I don't know of a single doctor. I know doctors who fret and worry all the time, who can't sleep because of conditions of patients, who stay with them all night long and do everything. I don't know of a single doctor who would say, well, I believe I'll just kill it. They're not doctors for that reason. This is totally unnecessary. It is the same thing we go through all the time. I remember Congressman Aiken telling us, with just a man on the science committee, saying that rape does not end up in pregnancy because women have some kind of substance, I believe he called it, that came down and prevented all that. And then we heard other people who were running for higher office give us the same kind of story. One can only judge from that that being a member of Congress does not confer upon us the ability to understand all medical problems, or certainly maybe in a lot of cases how even the human body is constructed, because rape does end up in pregnancy a lot of times. So I just, and let the statement of administration policy, you know they'd veto this, but I don't believe it will ever come up in the Senate. I've heard Senator McConnell has said more than once, and I think Mr. Cohen's right, what we're doing here is Planned Parenthood Week, so that in some hope that the majority may be able to pass a continuing resolution so we keep the government running. And I will bet you almost anything that most people at home would rather we were debating that than bringing this up one more time. And if Senator McConnell stands by what he said many times, he doesn't want to get into this. And he's made it absolutely clear that this is an exercise in futility. But I think, again, we are wasting the time. I must have brought up on the floor 100 times, on the 50, 60 times we've tried to kill health care, that it costs $24 million a week to run the House of Representatives. And that we spend all the time on this, nothing's going to go anywhere. We've got FAA is going to expire here in a couple of weeks. And we're talking about creating jobs, as you did with your previous bill. You understand what GE did today. Have you heard about them? They're taking all these jobs out of the United States and the reason they gave was because the Congress would not reinstitute the XM Bank, which costs us nothing. We don't put money into that. We get money back from it, right? So it boggles the mind of what we're doing here. But I said a while ago that I don't want to keep you all from hearing your debate, and I don't. If you want to aggravate most of the women in the United States by taking Planned Parenthood away from them, and if you want to make the entire medical group mad in the United States, I will not interfere with that either. So I ask unanimous consent to put this in with the other statements from the administration, and I deeply regret it. I know that you are a nice man, a good father, and you care very deeply, but I wish, for goodness sake, that sometimes you could walk in somebody else's shoes and face what other people are facing.
Ms. Slaughter, that's really what I'm trying to do here.
There's not a doctor in the United States that would know what you're doing here.
Statement of administrative procedures.
Forgive me.
I'm sure there's not a doctor in the United States, either in Congress or out of it, that would hear what you would say, that a doctor would deliberately kill a living being that is not angry about it tonight. I sure know I am. I yield back my time.
Gentlewoman yields back her time. Gentlewoman's recognized.
Just for a minute.
Yes,
I want to agree with what Ms. Chakowski said, but one thing I think I did not hear her say, she may have and I just overheard it, is that not a single dime of tax money is spent on abortion by Planned Parenthood or anybody else. It's against the law. It has never happened. It is a totally separate fund. And also that I believe the community health services, they've already made statements that there's no way in the world that they can pick up the cause and to do the work that Planned Parenthood has done. So what we would do here, if this happens, is literally take away the health care for men and women all over the country, rural America, people who have no other access to health care. For so many people who go to Planned Parenthood, it is all they have. The gynecologist that they can talk to is the only health care sometimes they have for almost any issue. Word came to me today, I got a call today about a woman which 19 years old had gone to Planned Parenthood in Syracuse, my neighboring city, and they, on examination, they found abnormal cells in her uterus that would become cancerous, and she was able to get those taken care of and then have further children. And what I'd failed to say to Mr. Franks when I talked about the people who had lost children that they desperately wanted was in many cases those abortions were created so that those women could protect their reproductive systems and have children in the future. It is absolutely, we can't make those decisions here. We don't know what circumstances those people are facing. I think it's unconscionable for us to try to make some blanket statement here that someone who's carrying a fetus that is dead already, is poisoning their system, and can cause grievous harm to their bodies that they can't do anything about it. How can we possibly do that? It's sort of like, remember the old ads that used to be, I'm not a doctor, but I play one on television? Well, it's the same thing as I'm not a doctor, but I play one in Congress. It doesn't work here either. But thank you, Ms. Joukowsky. I certainly agree with you. I've known this agency for all my life and known what it's done. And when 1 in 5 Americans gets their health care there, there is no system in the world, in this country, that could take up that slack. No one. Thank you.